Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Faria Rahman, and I will be your host for MCMN Roulette, where we introduce our audiences to the wonderful Canadian Muslim professionals. Today we have Sheikh Musleh Khan, who is an Imam and Resident Instructor at the Islamic Institute of Toronto. You have extensively worked with the community for many years, and you've learned a lot from your experiences. What are some of the most significant issues that the Muslim community faces today?
Oh, that's three areas. Number one, family-related issues, marriage, divorce, relationships with families as a whole. Number two, specifically with the youth, just youth-related issues, struggles, questions, direction, guidance, you name it, the whole works. And number three is the da'wah or education towards with non-Muslims. Those are the three areas that is a really, really huge struggle. And the more scholars and teachers that we can have that get involved and master these areas, it'll be extremely effective and helpful for all of us as a community. But those are the areas in my experience that I've seen really need a lot of work.
Now, how about you? What are some of the challenges you face in your work?
Oh man, this is really challenging, Sister Faria. Meeting the demands and the expectations of the community is a huge, huge challenge. It's a battle that I'm faced with that I can never win, because no matter how much myself or people like us do, there's always going to be the demand to do more and more and more. So it's meeting those demands and expectations of the communities is a huge challenge. And then the second thing is never feeling as though you have accomplished anything. Like just the feeling of having helped somebody or accomplishing something is also challenging, because there's just so much to do that it's very seldom you feel as though, okay, I've actually solved a problem or I've actually done something to help a situation. Those would be the two areas that really make this job difficult. So it's the demand, but it's also finding any satisfaction in it. So the way that we find our relief is between us and Allah. Like at the end of the day, I'll tell myself, I've done this for the sake of Allah. My reward is with Allah. My compensation is with Allah. And that's the thing that keeps you motivated and keeps the engine running.
Now, going into the sermons and lectures you've given, what was the best or one of the best khutbahs you've ever given?
I don't know if I can answer that. I think, the audience would have to tell you something like that. Look, every time I give a khutbah or a sermon or a lecture anywhere, I can tell you that I do my very best to prepare myself. I do my very best to give something to the audience that can inspire them and make them feel good about themselves, regardless of their situation, regardless of how much Islam they have or don't have. And I leave the reaction to them. They're the ones that are going to tell me or remind me of what kind of impact I've had. But other than that, it's a question I don't think I can answer. I give my best as much as I can in all of my talks, and I leave the rest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Now, going more into your personal life, when do you feel closest to Allah?
I'd like to say always, but if there's certain moments and times that I feel closest to Him, is usually when I'm teaching. It's usually when I'm teaching. When I'm standing in front of the students in a classroom anywhere, that's the time that really and truly it gives me a sense of joy and honor. But also when I think about all the things that I teach and every letter and word that I utter that can actually educate somebody about Allah's religion and how far that can go. Their life can improve, and then they'll tell somebody else, I learned this from Sheikh so-and-so or Imam so-and-so, and you get compensation of the reward. So just thinking about the enormous, endless amount of blessings you get for teaching somebody something Islamic or something good for them is really my moment, and those are the moments that I maximize the most.
Now, what do you look for in a good friend?
Wow, I've never been asked this before. I can tell you though, the first thing that comes to mind is honesty and just being genuine, not having any expectations. Genuine in the sense that even if I would wrong them or say something that offends them, that they're willing to communicate and talk to me to understand, what I said or what I did. So to be able to be genuine enough to accept me, even with my flaws and mistakes, that's the kind of friend that I look for, and that's the kind of friend that I would hold on to.
Now, this is a question that we ask many of our guests who come. What is your favorite book? Because it can give you a little glimpse of your personality.
So my favorite book is actually a series. It's in Arabic. So it's a 12-volume series. I actually have it right here. It's sitting beside me. And this particular collection is all about the etiquettes of the Prophet ﷺ, his whole life. So what happened is that you had 4 scholars. One of them was an imam of the Haram in Mecca. 4 scholars that came together and authored this collection. And it's called Nadratun Na'im. And what they did was remarkable. I've never seen a collection like this before. They basically studied all of the etiquettes of the Prophet ﷺ. So for example, he was somebody that was patient. And what they did is they categorized everything you need to know about patience. So they have a section of, patience, the definition, the Islamic definitions, the difference of opinions on that. Then they'll have another section of all the ayat of the Quran that describe and talk about patience. The next section, all the hadith about patience. And then finally, in that chapter of patience, they will have all of the statements of scholars and companions and what they said about patience. So it's like the ultimate go-to collection if you're preparing a lecture on a particular subject or a khutbah or what have you. You go to this collection and it's everything you need to know about a topic that's on your mind. And every topic that's in this book is a direct etiquette of the Prophet ﷺ. So I think it's a marvelous, marvelous piece. And it's a collection that I read regularly and I depend on for a lot of my preparation.
Mm-hmm. So our last question for today, how can we unite the Ummah and eradicate Islamophobia?
Uniting the Ummah, I get asked this every so often. A long time ago, somebody asked me if we will ever see unity in the Ummah. I don't know. We might be unified in some areas, but other areas will still be, a long process. So in terms of having unity, what we can do is we can unify our communities. So if you can unify the communities and the people around you, then as a result, it will encourage and inspire the outer communities to do the same. So if you ask me how we can develop that, it would have to start right here at home within our own communities. In terms of eradicating Islamophobia, we can eradicate Islamophobia. Obviously, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, we can do that. But it requires a lot of support, a lot of involvement with Muslims, to be involved with, local politicians and governments. It involves people to speak out and bring awareness to these issues. It involves Muslims to report when something happens to them or they feel threatened as a result of their religion, that they report these things. So if we can continue, and to also work with organizations that are on the front lines combating Islamophobia, to work and support and even donate to organizations like this so that they can continue to do that work. If we can do that, we can certainly eradicate Islamophobia. And the last thing that I'll mention is that, of course, education, getting out as much positive content out there of who we are, what our beliefs are. These are the things that are needed the most. Usually, Islamophobes and anybody who is anti-Islam, one of the most powerful tools that they have to perpetuate that kind of hate is that they are heavily funded and they have the money and the resources to market that kind of information and to spread it online and so on and so forth. So if we are able to combat that with more videos, more education, more knowledge about Islam, we can certainly eradicate Islamophobia as a whole, inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah. So, Jazakallahu Khair for coming to our MCMN Roulette show. Where can we find you?
I'm online. You can just literally type my name on Google. You can go on my Facebook. I'm pretty active on my page literally every day. So those are the two places. All my information is online, so you're welcome to look that up.
Jazakallahu Khair for our audience who are watching. Please remember to follow MCMN Media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Jazakallahu Khair for watching and for spending your time here.